bells.
I appreciate that. Just
nuclear codes.
Sure. Okay, we're ready. Yeah, we're good. Cool.
Hi, welcome to the new Speakers Corner 2.0 as of COVID restrictions. I have with me the lovely Steve, obviously, and Ben, as we like to call him, to his face. So, on that bombshell, we three are going to discuss atheism, ostensibly, you know, us attacking, Steve defending for as long as he can under the onslaught of Ben's logic. And I'll let Ben open.
Okay, so Steve, as an atheist, I would ask you to account for me two things: the laws of logic and absolute truth.
Oh, goodness sake.
Start with the small
Because let me give you the reason why.
I'm going to be more
come a bit closer,
interested.
just close to
Right, Steve.
So the reason why I ask you, and you can push back at us if you like, but the reason why I ask, you know, in questions in regards to the laws of logic and absolute truth, because within the Christian worldview, within our paradigm, we can account for things such as absolute truth, morality, the laws of logic, because we believe the source of these things comes from God. So in your perspective as an atheist, where do you account for these things?
Before I say anything about my perspective or stance, tell me more about your theistic view of the laws of logic.
Okay, so I believe the laws of logic are transcendental. So
what does that mean?
Okay, they transcend the human mind, basically. Okay, so if I was to ask you as an atheist, do you believe the laws of logic are a construct of the human mind?
No, absolutely not, because they would exist even if humans didn't exist.
I agree. So in that case,
you don't need a theistic God.
I agree. They would still exist without any human minds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you account for these things, like absolute truth? How do you account for absolute truth without an objective standard by which to appeal to?
Well, I'm going to go back to you and seek clarification on what's absolute truth.
Absolute truth, something that is absolutely true and not subjective.
Can you define it without just reordering the words?
Absolute truth. Something is universally true without variation. For example, you said that the laws of logic would still exist even without the human mind. That's something that is absolutely true. Universally true.
According to you two.
Universally
my
true.
definition.
My individualistic perspective, subjective view on it is that they
Give me your
apply.
money. Give me your money.
My definition of absolute truth is something that is a perfect example of reality. That's it, basically. It's
Perfect.
the epitome.
How can
absolute
you know
truth.
Did you say perfect?
Yes, because
How
absolute
can
is the highest.
perfection be
No, not
relevant in this
perfection
subject?
is the descriptor.
Oh.
It's a perfect example because absolute truth, not 99% truth. Absolute is absoluteness is a perfect example of.
I cannot say from my own personal perspective that absolute truth exists.
But you can say it exists independent of the human construct.
I cannot personally say
So let me ask you.
that it does exist.
Okay, so absolute truth. There's no such thing as absolute truth.
I didn't say that.
He
I didn't say
cannot
there's no thing. I said
posit
from
it.
my individualistic subjective view, I cannot demonstrate or prove that absolute truth, i.e. 100.00%.
Is that statement absolutely true?
No, because it's an individualistic subjective view.
Okay, but when you say I can't.
You see, my world perspective differs to your world perspective because I go with the subjective more and you go with the objective.
But do you recognise that there is an objective source? Let me put it to you. Okay. Then let me give you an example.
So that means the big
Not
bearded man in
necessarily.
the sky.
Not necessarily. No, it just means there's something from which it comes, which we've
I'm glad you said something, not someone.
Yes, well,
because
God is
I would
also
say
something.
someone.
Excuse me, but I would still be finishing my sentence. So, for example, Nazi Germany in the 40s and Britain in the 40s,
Yeah.
we, as subjective moralists, the Brits believed that we were correct in condemning the Germans for their actions, and the Germans believed they were correct in
From
their
a certain
actions.
point of time
From the
we did,
subjective,
but-
and in the 40s, that's why I gave you a temporal.
But again, you're being
identifier.
absolute.
Hold
You're
on.
being absolute.
Let
You're
me
being
finish
an
my
absolute.
point. Though.
Hitler's view on bread baking may have been perfectly legitimate.
That's fine. I'm talking about nationally. Their policies towards the Jews and the Brit and the Allies
so
policy.
we're being
talking
specific.
about. No, but I haven't even got to
narrowing
the end.
it down.
So those are two moral stances. The Nazi
Gassing
Party
Jews and
says
not
yes,
gassing
we
Jews.
shall kill them. It's legal. The Allies say no, that's morally incorrect and illegal. But if there is no objective outside standard
Which
to
there
measure
isn't.
both, wait
Which
a minute,
there
no,
isn't.
it's an if, so you have to go along with my narrative for a moment. if there is none, then it is pointless for me to say, as a member of the Allied Party, then you are wrong. Because
it's not pointless.
See, Steve,
it is-
The lack of absolute truth does not make a perspective
So
pointless.
to what do you appeal? How do you explain to the Nazis that it's incorrect when they have asserted confidently this is correct for us?
By my own individualistic, subjective, moral standpoint, which I try to persuade and hope other people share to a degree.
Hitler was very open to persuasion.
That's the problem.
And human beings.
Steve, that's
all species. In
Steve,
fact,
that's the
not just
problem,
human
because
Can
beings.
you say that Nazism was wrong in the 40s?
I can,
Okay.
as an individual with a
And
subjective
Steve,
view.
Steve,
Yes.
Because you,
Pick him up
sorry,
one
because you have an external barometer.
No, I don't.
Wait,
Well-
I'm going to let me finish a sentence, and you might know what you're refuting.
Always been difficult.
If
Yeah,
I
no,
steal your wallet, yeah, we both know. So presumably, we both. When you say, "Hey, give me that back, it's mine," I know that by you saying it's mine, that means you should possess it, and I'm incorrect for taking it. But that's no one ever says, "What do you mean? What do you mean it's yours?" Like it's not that the mugger doesn't
Because
understand.
the rules of ownership are fairly obvious, aren't they?
Not
Steve,
necessarily.
But again,
Like for a
even
thief.
with the rules of ownership, there are exceptions.
And what are they based
so if
on,
I
the
was
rules
a
of
If I
ownership?
was a billionaire and you were absolutely your wits' end and poor and nothing to eat,
Yes.
then that's very different.
There's a different rationale
If we don't
behind
know.
it, but it's still theft.
So what you said is you would try to persuade them.
Not
but-
black and white.
Steve, you said that you would
Don't be
like.
so racist.
Steve, you said you would like to persuade them based upon your subjective view.
Yes.
But the problem is, that's what both sides are going to do. You're going to say to the Nazi.
And that's life.
No, but one
I'm
second.
always
What
life.
I'm going to say is this.
No,
You're
really.
going to say to Nazi Germany, I'm going to try and convince you
Secondary
based upon
Look
my
here.
based upon my subjective morality that what you're doing is wrong. They're going to come back at you and say, well, based upon our subjective morality and the standard we appeal to, we believe it's absolutely okay to do. So I'm saying, when you have these two conflicting subjective moralities, which external objective source do you appeal to?
There isn't one. There isn't one.
Exactly. That's the problem. So you have a worldview that's subjective, which ultimately the atheist is being inconsistent. Because when you say, I'll show you how. I'll show you how.
Where's the
Because
inconsistency?
I will show you how. Because when you say, okay, repeat what you said because people interrupting me off.
People.
Where's the inconsistency in the
Okay,
atheist
it's
view?
inconsistent. It's inconsistent.
What is specifically?
I'm about to show
I
you.
wasn't calling
The
people,
atheist.
I was-
Okay, one second. The atheist saying these things, okay,
Saying what
is
things?
inconsistent
Saying
because
what things?
I'm going to get to it, Steve. Because when you say, okay, this is what we have, it's subjective, and that's what we go with, you're then going to say when Nazi Germany kicks down your door, drags you and your wife and kids away, you're then going to say that's
You'd have to nip round,
you're
eh?
then going to say that's absolutely wrong. So then you're going to appeal to an absolute truth, not a subjective
You're
opinion.
choosing, deciding what words I'm going to use.
So if they kicked
to make your point.
so if they kicked in your door, would you say it's absolutely wrong for them kicking your door?
I tend not to use the word absolutely full stop.
Absolutely.
Is that
Absolutely. And literally.
But listen, do you not see the point though? So,
No, because again, as I said a while ago in this conversation, you work in a world of absolute subjectives. I don't.
I don't. I live in a secular world.
But Steve, one
Well,
second, Steve, that's an
A
absolute.
feather, you could say that's an absolute statement.
an absolute
They're
statement.
words.
Let me
They're
ask you one
words.
thing. Let me
They're
interrupt
words.
this for a second.
Yes, which has meaning.
Does your faith make something
Variable.
true? The fact that you believe in something very vehemently
No,
make it
that's
true?
the other way around.
that
The
which
truth
is true.
inspires the faith.
That
Well,
which
then
is
you're
true.
not right just because you believe in
No,
something.
that's
Nobody
not
has
what we're
claimed
saying.
that.
But Pavlov, that's not what we're saying. Truth is that which corresponds to reality. Would you agree?
Yeah, but what you
That's
believe
what
is
truth is.
reality.
Sorry?
No,
What you
no,
believe
no,
reality
no.
Not
is.
necessarily.
What
Look
you
at
believe,
art.
hold on, what
Look
you
at
believe
art.
reality
Yeah, it's
is.
Someone could say
Absolutely
this horse
twaddle.
head is beautiful.
But
Absolutely.
that's in the terms of
absolutely.
subjective.
What you
Well,
believe
it's
reality
like-
is
no,
isn't
no,
necessarily
you're
what reality is.
you're making a false dichotomy.
Reality
You're
has
saying
to
that there's
come
either
through
the
the
subjective
lens
or
of
the
subjectivity, as
objective,
in a
and there's no
human
in between.
interpretation
There are
of
things that are
events.
But your
subjective.
eyes
No, no,
are
no,
example,
no,
things
hold on,
like,
I haven't finished.
flavour.
So it
I
gets
like
to your
chocolate, you
brain,
might not like chocolate.
and then
That's
you
subjective.
make the
In
judgment
terms of
as a
morality
human
and the laws
being
of logic,
as
they are
to how
absolutely true
closely
or
that
not.
relates to the truth
Well,
as
why
you perceive it.
then?
And yet,
I'm not sure how this is
what
going to work
we
on
are
camera
claiming,
with
sorry,
multiple
what we're claiming
Yeah.
is that there is an objective
how then
standard,
does
not a
morality-
reality of good.
How then does morality
Are subjective though?
change,
What's
evolve,
the change?
alter?
Sorry?
How does, if what you just said is correct, that morality
Repeat
is,
that, sorry, come
if,
away
if,
from
if
that.
what you're saying is morality is absolute and objective, why therefore does morality change both geographically and with time? what my mother found immoral, I find perfectly fine. What my mother found moral, her mother, my grandmother, found absolutely immoral. And what we find moral here, a Muslim culture, for example, would find absolutely immoral. So, and it's not just religion-based. So, morality clearly varies with time and space. Geography.
It varies in time and space when you have a worldview that is without God. For example,
worldviews with God.
hold on,
Religious
hold
societies
on.
change. The Catholic
but one
Church
second,
changes its stance on morality.
They do. That's because they're inconsistent. Okay, for example,
Bad Christians.
They're inconsistent in terms of, for example, the Pope said that the capital punishment is now wrong, when prior popes said that's okay. That's because they're basing that on the opinion of a man who's running that particular institution. One second, rather than the laws of God themselves. Because if we live by the laws of God, then things are absolute. If we go by the laws of man, then things become subjective, like Nazi Germany, like Mao Zedong.
So therefore, point me in the direction of a single faith or religious clan who've been unwavering in their beliefs and their morality, that morality has not changed at any point during history.
Okay, so now what you've done is you've committed a fallacy of composition. You're basically saying because the engine is blue, therefore the whole car's blue. I'm saying simply because those people within this faith wander from the truths that God has revealed in His Word, doesn't therefore logically follow that the faith itself is then subjective.
You're making a claim in regard to absolute objective morality that you claim to get from your creator, and that it's unchanging, and you're saying everything I'm saying about but morality changes with time and with the geography. You're saying, but no, if you've got the absolute morality from your creator, it's unchanging. So therefore I'm asking, which I think is a reasonable question, asking for some evidence or examples of where that can be demonstrated.
Okay, so evidence. Let's look at evidence, okay?
Of that specific question, of where morality has been unchanging throughout time, throughout history, and across geography.
Okay, so I'm granting you that depending on different societies, morality has become subjective. For example, a classic case is Nazi Germany. Their subjective morality says it's okay to do these hideous things. We over here said, well, that's not okay to do, therefore we must put a stop to that. So what I'm saying is, when we do that, when we say it's absolutely wrong to murder these people, we are borrowing from the Christian worldview. When we say that's wrong because they
You're
have...
not answering my question,
I'm getting to it. That's wrong because they have value. So I'm saying, in terms of societies making up different subjective moralities, I agree, they do that. So that's my answer there. They do that, absolutely. But the problem is, it doesn't therefore logically follow that absolute truth does not exist. Because in the paradigms I'm speaking in terms of worldviews, under the Christian worldview, absolute truth is definitely a thing. Absolutely.
But there doesn't seem any evidence for it being...
Which is going back to my point. Evidence, okay, I would say evidence presupposes proof. Would you agree?
Evidence presupposes proof.
Evidence presupposes proof.
Mm-hmm.
Proof presupposes truth, because you can't prove something to be true if it's not true. So proof presupposes truth. Truth presupposes God, because without God, where do you get truth from? Tell me.
I have to say, what the most ridiculous statement ever.
Okay,
without
so
God, where do you get truth
Explain
from?
to me, how do you get truth without God? Because this goes back to what you said earlier.
Because can I say first though, I think that one of the very first things we said over there was that the laws of logic exist whether humans exist or not.
And that's my point.
Okay, wait. So we both agree on that point. Well, my friend, the laws of logic or the laws of morality or whatever else you want to pick exist whether your God exists or whether that man over there's God exists or whether that woman's multiple gods over there exist.
Steve, I'm saying these things exist. Come with me. I'm saying these things exist because God exists. God,
well, that's just a statement.
Steve,
you're not getting any evidence.
So that's why we look at the presuppositions through which we're looking at the world, and we determine which one of our presuppositions makes more sense and which one doesn't. Because I can say...
That's like you saying I'm right and everyone else is wrong.
No, it's not. I'm asking you to critique your presuppositions, okay? That's what I'm asking you to do. Because, as I've said, you agree, and I'm glad you do that, because many atheists actually tell me, no...
believe it or not, we're not one church.
No,
we're not one organisation. We're all individuals.
Steve, 1 second.
More than any other group.
Many atheists tell me that no, they only exist in the the construct of the human mind. So I'm glad you're a bit more consistent and say, well, no,
Well, how's that more
one
consistent?
second, you're saying it's consistent and inconsistent. Let me explain why. Because you're saying that they will still exist, okay, without God. I'm saying yes, they do. Actually, not without God, without people.
Oh, you were right the first
without
time.
people. I'm saying yes,
Both.
they do still exist without people, but that therefore proves they're transcendental. They transcend the human mind. Therefore, they come from somewhere else.
Why does something
Steve,
transcending the human mind mean they come from somewhere else? Why?
So, okay, if they,
You're making links
Steve,
without
one
any.
second. Let me explain why. Let me finish the point. Okay. So if they exist without the human mind, they transcend the human mind, which means they come from somewhere other than us.
No.
I'm saying, one second. So they don't come from somewhere
A
other
baboon,
than us. You just said-
a baboon transcends the human mind. That's no more evidence that the baboon came from somewhere else.
Okay, Steve. Let's not.
You're not
one second.
making
Let's-
sense.
Let's
I have
not.
to
Let's
say.
not compare ourselves with baboons.
Well,
second.
why not?
Well, okay. 1 second. So let me continue my
They're
thought. okay?
very similar.
Paul. Okay.
You never watched
not Paul,
baboons?
Steve. Sorry.
You've never watched baboons?
I have. Yeah. So,
They're very similar.
Well, only to some people.
the social societies, the interactions,
Okay, but Steve, let me
the
fin-
communication,
Steve, let me finish
the
my
child
point.
care.
Steve, let me finish my point. Okay. So
They do a better job than us in many ways.
Steve, so you're digressing. So I say, okay, that these things exist because of God. Therefore, they transcend us. So they come from a transcendent. 1 second.
keep making
They come
statements
from
without-
1 second, Steve. They come from a transcendental being. That's why I say I can account for these things based upon my presupposition that God is real. You can't account for these things, and I'm asking you
What
to
do you mean,
account for these things.
What? Baboons?
No,
Consciousness?
No, you're not
What-
following.
what
Explain to me.
account logic?
Give an account.
Morals?
Give an account for things like truth, the laws of logic. All these things. Account for those without a transcendental being.
Why do you need a transcendental being? Why do you need it?
Do you know why?
Why?
Because you said they exist without the mind. So if they
The human mind.
No, I'm saying the mind.
Humans
I'm
are
saying-
a tiny pinprick
I'm
of
saying,
existence.
I'm
aren't
saying
they?
the mind.
Humans are a tiny pinprick
I'm
of
saying,
existence,
I'm
both
saying-
historically
I'm
and
saying,
again.
When I say mind, when I say
volume-wise.
mind, I'm talking about human mind and animal mind. So without those things, how do you account for these truths and the laws of logic? Because, like I say,
That grass is grass, whether you and I exist or not. That statement kind of is an example of what you're saying.
That's a
Things
sta-
that
that's a
things that
statement.
exist outside of us
Steve,
and unrelated
no,
to
no,
us,
no,
although we
no,
planted
Steve,
this grass
Steve,
and we
Steve,
mow this grass.
you're wrong.
But that the existence
Steve.
of that grass in no way demonstrates the existence of your
no,
creator.
Steve, the existence of that grass.
Very weak argument.
You saying that grass is green, okay, and that's grass with or without us. Yes, it is, but you need the construct of the human mind to determine what's green,
No, you need the rods in your back of your eyes, in
which
your
which
retinas.
come from human beings. Yes. So without
Not just human
so without
beings.
okay,
You don't-
okay, we come from living beings. Yes. So without the living beings here on earth, with no God, where do you get these things from? You're still yet to answer.
So now you're moving it on to
No.
how we came about.
No, it's the same thing.
We just said
No,
how
no,
do they
it-
come about?
No. Yeah, these no, not us. How we come about. How these laws come about.
What laws?
Have you been here the whole conversation? The laws of logic, absolute truth, these things. I'm saying with
Well-
God I can account. You're
Well,
saying
apart from the law
you're
of
saying-
logic,
Steve,
the law of logic. What other laws are you referring
Steve,
to?
you're saying okay, the law of non-contradiction.
These are philosophical
Yes, they are.
argumentations.
This is a
aren't they?
philosophical argument. If you don't wish to continue, we can shake hands and that's
I
fine.
think we'll do that.
But think about that because you
Well,
couldn't-
but to be honest though,
you
I
couldn't
would-
give an account
even,
for it.
even if I wanted to be genuine and give you some time and go away and think about what we just discussed, I'm going to really struggle to grasp what the hell you were talking about.
Okay. Can I give you some recommendations on reading?
Is it short and snappy?
Probably not.
Then it probably would be a
Okay,
waste
Steve.
of time.
Thanks very much.
Good, nice one. Good stuff.
Oh, dearie me.